Hey people, February 17th, 2021. It's a cold summer bitch in South Mississippi today and yesterday, and I got some good stuff for you. So I don't show my face often, and it's mainly because this camera is iffy on here. Sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. About 1 out of 20 times I can make it work. And so I don't care to fight it, and I don't care to put my face on here because I'm usually trying to show information, and it just take a lot more time editing around so you can see what I'm pointing at. But there's an ancient old proverb, and it goes, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, but if you only have one fish, then you don't eat. And it kind of got twisted around, But that's kind of where the story of Jesus and the two fish come from. And, if you have one fish, then you have to be selfish. But if you have two fish, you're fixing to see something you've never thought about. So if y'all bear with me, I'm working my way over here to this story of Jesus feeding 5,000 on 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And I had to look at several of these Greek Bibles because they're not all the same. They change it up. But this one have the red letters of Jesus speaking. But I noticed that they changed the words up in here. In one letter, you wouldn't think it makes that much of a difference. But it does, from the word of they pen, what they write, what to is, to deface. They add the end in it, and it means that they pen, that they write. But this is a D, and it means to remove, to D, the face when it doesn't have the N on there. And so it changes up through the different Bibles in the Greek too, same as in the Hebrew. So in that last movie I was reading here in Job a little bit, and I was showing you how this word Satan, when it comes after attack, it reads backwards and forwards, and it's the Nazi Satan, N-T-S-E, Nazi Satan. So this is Satan's first attack. And it really explains who Satan is here. But the wage, is how you get by, your work, your job. The wage they use, who vow bing hail. Hail them, where you're from, to hail them. Bing, to mark the time to hail from. Letters in, like letters, the letters in, and so it's spelt like this to let you know that it's of the mark to make cross in. So everything is marked T to make cross in, and that's where your word letters come from, like letters. So you imagine this marked with letters. The letters in all have you, who in wages Nazi Satan in took from. In the wages of Nazi Satan in took from. And that kind of says that the Nazi Satan is the recession, that changes, that causes the letters to change over time. And so, a bunch of different writers wrote this, and even when it's the same writer, the same poet, he'll spell things in different ways all the time through here, just to jar your mind a little bit. But usually, when I find words and I go searching for them in here, it blows my mind where I find them, because it'll use all the other words that aren't used often. They'll be grouped together. And so I ended up here in Exodus 2, and I found another spelling for Nazi here. And so I went back and started the top of this. It's supposed to be the birth of Moses, but I know the word that they use for Moses isn't Moses in here. And so I was looking for the real name. And when I went to reading this, it didn't. It's not anything like the story. It's talking about a sailor and what he does and what he learns. And you see several different words here for the water. You know, the water is WTER here, and then the WTRA is water. And this one blew my mind, the watered. And it's a TRD, a turd, and came down. You know, whoever's up the river, they send their shit down the river, a turd, and came down, the watered. And so if you're talking to your buddy and his daughter's coming, you know, you might say, oh, here comes the little turd butt. And when it talks about the princess and her maidens, and they saw the ark and sent a maid servant to retrieve it, you can see here, you know, it's two backwards and forwards. Have it, EVT, have it, ETVE, have it of, in took, BTUK, in took this up. To have it of, in took this up, would sail. And so it talks about this sailor and what kind of habits he's got, and it's after this, you know, it reads backwards, to dilly the yield. And what it means, you know, is he's out there in the water, and what the king sent him to go pick up, he wasn't there, you know. He writes ledgers, he writes books, and he can dilly the yield, the outcome, however he likes. And so them captains were getting rich. You know, all they do is get enough to keep the king satisfied, but anything else that they can con out of when they went to transport and pick up new goods, you know, that's where they would dilly the yield. Dilly is you know, to pick all the best, to dilly. If you were going to dilly a child, you would go into the DNA and you would pick all the best traits out of the mother and father to put in the yield. And that's where they get the child from, is the yield, YLD. And yield means what comes out of, what you get out of it. It's to dilly the yield. And you can see the spelling for of the Hebrews is the ovaries. From yield make the ovaries. And so it's talking about his kid here. And the Hebrew is, you know, is from in fat man. From in the fat man, the over it. The over it. And so the Hebrews were not the slaves. The Hebrews were the ones that were over it, the over the work. You see a Brit. You know, British is the covenant, is the Brit. Or in the writings, in writ. And so they were over it. You know, the fat man over it is the man in charge, and he's just doing the writings. Somebody else is doing the labor. But it was down here where Moses kills the Egyptian is where I found this other word for Nazi. And so it's talking about, you know, he's old and retired as a sea captain. And so back in the day, you know, all your law had to do with astrology. If it was in the stars, you could get away with murder if you had a good lawyer. And nobody knew the stars better than the old sea captains. And so they would retire and get appointed to judge spots. It says the wage, then hits the wall and reads backwards. To make who, H-I-W is who. The wage to make who in days these. Who godel. Godel, this is the word used for the Tower of Babel. That's why you always see pictures that's drawn in a screw, and it means to screw. Who screw? You know, or who gold, who screw to the top, and that's where they get this that was grown out of. But a godel is is a Tower of Babel shape, a screw that goes up. The wage make who in days these, who godel most, who screw most wits, wix, who screw most wits, Allah, A-L-A, backwards. Anything starts with A is backwards. The Allah which I chew. And so this is given meaning brother, because in the ancient Egyptian story of creation, Allah had sneezed Achu and created all the stars. And so the Nut was the daughter, was the sky, was the planets, and Achu was the stars. The godel most wits, Allah which Achu, where in civilits. And so and that's trying to rhyme, the wits and in civilits. The wage make who in jimmies these, who godel most wits, Allah which I chew, where in civilits, where as sieve misery, MXRI, where a sea misery make, seer, backwards and forwards after this tack, the seer in over, make from Achu, make from the stars, the seer, the CSIAIRB or VN, and then over, make from Achu, make from the stars. So he's in the civilet court, in the civilets, and he's in the seer over, to make from the stars. Who pinned ka to ka, soul to soul? Who pinned ka to ka, where a key not see? You know, a key, where hear not see. A key to hear, where hear not see. Who pinned ka to ka, where a key not see? Who kata? Who kata? It means according to, kata. All the Gospels are kata, according to. And so usually they'll give this whack, wick, anything with a W and any vowel, and followed by K, they'll say, and struck, not killed. Who kata, who according to, make writs from the misery. Backwards, make RTS, make writs from the misery. Witham new, WITH, Witham new ball, where a key not see. According to, who according to, make writs from the misery. Who them knew ball. Them knew the ball. They knew the ball of the earth and the way that the stars went around. They knew the ball. And ball is also an ancient word for war. A battle is a ball. And that's possibly the spelling for it. In divide, BH, in divide will. Who sow by us the sign, when sign missing answers over is Nazis who yammer were fighting was the Nazis, NXIS, And so the X is the TZ, the Tazadi, NTZIS, the Nazis. And yammered and said, Larso Lem, take rock. You know, Larso is a thief, a larcenist. The Larso Lem is something that you acquire from. To Lem, take rock. So wit's so biased. You know, bias, I'm sided. The sign, when sign, the mission answers over is Nazis. He's kind of biased when the mission answers it over is Nazis. And say, the Larso Limb, the thief that acquired, take rock. And so this Nazis comes up 3 times, and this is the only time it says fighting. The other time it's ruins. Did not you hear long ago how I made from times ancient, that I formed it now, and I have brought it to pass that you should be for crushing into heaps of ruins, the Nazis. And it looks like the same thing in the Kings. Did not you hear long ago how I made from ancient times, that I formed it? Now I have brought it to pass that you should be for crushing it into heaps of ruins. Nazis. It's an ancient sign. And so this is what it got me thinking, you know, Nazis, N-X-I-S. N is the sign for the fish, and the fish crosses. The fish crosses. So in ancient time, the fish was represented by the letter N. And it could be written like this. Most of them were in this fashion. And these were writing from right to left. And if you wrote from left to right, it looked like this. It's just opposite. And so if you turn this letter N and cross them, it's going to give you a swastika. A fish cross is a swastika. A Sabian and a Libni will give you different directions of your swastika. And these come from the Semites, the Semite alphabets. And so what people mistake for a symbol of the SS, you know, it does mean communism, but it means 2 fish. I have 2 fish and I am willing to share. Communism, communal living. I have 1 fish and it's for myself. I'm selfish. And we live in a commune here. This is a communism, commune living, and we share fish. I have 2 fish. I have 1 for you too. And so that's how Jesus was able to feed 5,000 men plus their women and children, is what it says, with just 2 fishes. You know, you can't do it with 1 fish. And Jesus was a Nazi commie. You know, it was worldwide. There was communism, community living. You know, they try to make it sound like an awful thing, but, you know, commune is, you know what a commune is? It's people living together and sharing, people with 2 fish. And ism is a belief, and I believe it'll work, is what that means. Communism is a belief that communal living would work. And so it's been around forever and everywhere. And so people say it's a sign of good luck. They try to destroy what it means. You just read it in the Old Testament, that they try to destroy what this means, and they give it all kind of other meanings, but that's what it means, is 2 fish. It's ancient. It's in all the ruins. And so I'm not saying communism is the way. I'm saying communism is the only way to conquer when your capitalism has done you wrong, and people don't realize it. But the only way to defeat a government, when your government goes rogue and they sell you out to other countries, you know, they send all your money to other countries. They send $1 billion to China to put $1 million in their pocket. You've been sold out, and there's no way you can defeat it except communism. That's how you defeat capitalism. It's not a permanent thing, and what it means is everybody shares. We quit using money, they can't tax what we share. Everybody just do your job and don't expect a bank account to grow. You just try to get the system running without them. Just ignore them. And if you say, but the communism never makes it, it always falls, you know, that's just another way of saying that you are eating what the capitalist system is feeding you. You're believing that the capitalists want the best for you, and they're telling you the truth and not hiding information. So yeah, what does take communism down is capitalism. And there's always somebody, you know, that can be swayed. And communism doesn't take itself down. It's the capitalists next door that come and lead, you know, people astray. They'll give them a little bit of the good life, show them what the good life is like, and they'll slowly lead them astray. It happens to all your politicians. You know, they might go in with good intentions, but once they get up there to the White House, they're easily led astray with a little bit of fat. But don't confuse communism with Zionism. And communism is the tool they're trying to use right now. You know, people think we're fixing to become communists, but it's actually a tool of the Zionists that are trying to take over the whole world under Zionism. And we damn sure don't want that. So I'm going to hit this Greek real quick and show you a couple things. But here at 14:20 it says Peter walks upon the water. And this is the apocalyptic. But in the Berean Bible, it says Jesus is the one that walked on the water. But a good place to start here is Matthew 5:37. And let it be, however, the statement of you, yes, yes, and no, no. And the however more than these from evil comes. And so they're saying that nay, nay means yes, yes. In every language all the way around Greece, every language in the world, nay means no. There's no way these people could have communicated with the rest of the world and have an opposite nay for no and a oui. You know, everybody else oui was yes. Oui, the Frenchman, oui, oui. Yes, yes. Nay, nay, no, no. And it's not just a mistake here. All the way through the Bible, they're going to change the meaning of these words because the language can't change came after the Greek Bible was written. And so it starts with this story about John the Baptist beheaded. And so John the Baptist is probably the real Jesus. And it wasn't even John. It was Herodotus. His wife, I think, was Joanna. And you see it, the spelling here. It's not John the Baptist, it's Joanna. Joanna, you see it. You see it here. And Joanna, the Gaina of the wife of Choose. And it's not Choosa, it's the wife of choice. The wife of Choose. Herodotus, Herodo. And so this word Herodo, you see right here, hero, the hero do. And here it's the hero does, DHS. And this Jisu, this is the IHS. This is the command of Rome before. But it was Joannes of the Baptists that brought communism. And it talks about in here how they can't defeat it. I think in these couple lines here, here's a having sent forth. This is the pimps, you having, the one having sent her is her pimp. And like I say, this vav, it doesn't necessarily mean and, it can mean it's W or two. And to pimps, a peak of the phallus is a dick, the top of the dick, not beheaded, but to a peak phallus. The ton is the fashionable class of Joanna on the flock. And if you look at all these other words, you'll see they change all the meanings up however they like, the same as in the Greek, especially in the small words. But this is to check the fall. What to? Annexeth. To annex is not something was brought, it's something that you acquired to annex a state. The PP naked. The naked PP, the circumcised wiener. We doth, vav, W-E-D-O-T-H. We doth to crazy, K-O-R-A-S-I. Crazy, that's when a girl's really crazy. She is crazy. And the vav, W-H-N, when Jack. She crazy when Jack. The matri, M-H-T-R-A, the matri, not necessarily the mother, but the maid, or the woman of auths. This is where your word author comes from. And it's in the beginning when God created. That's what it says in the Greek, is auths. He wrote, the writer. Upper rose health on it is. How math tie. Like I was telling you, the movie Math means to collect. The math, to collect, tie, to add them up. What to? W-H-A-T-O-U is what this is. To add them up, what to? Hereon to some we taps on. We taps on. Taps is the music you play at a military funeral. The taps on. We taps on what to. And health on. The health on it's a pedilion. That's on top of. To make his so. Like I say, this is an address to the Pope, to the King. Everything is his, to make his so. And having heard is to accuse as. It's not having heard, it's to accuse as. It's to see, and to see, make his use, to the King, to the Pope, to make his use. Annex, to take over. And the annexer is the one that's doing the taking. The annexer has on. The key then employ. To accuse as. To accuse is see, make his use. The annexer has on. The key then employ, to plot against, to ploy. This, E-T-H-E-I-S. This, the rim on, top on, is a desolate place. It's talking about, a border of a country. When a desert or a mountaintop's used for a border, it'd be the rim on top, would be like on the mountain where there's nobody there, nobody can live. It's not like you have to worry about somebody moving in on your land because there's nothing there for them. A desolate place is this, the rim on top on. In private is the cat handy on, and accuses on its who oxaloi. Oxum is to make stronger by getting the weak off. If you evaporate, put some soap, some liquid soap in a dish, and after a while it turns into a bar soap because it evaporated all the water off. That's to oxum. But the oxaloi is the water that comes off, is the weak multitudes that come off of it. And he's talking about how they're turning it into a communist country by sending their weak of the Czechoslovakians. And they were getting rid of the weak. The Czecholo, this on what to peas to make him happy, P-E-Z-H, to make him happy, oppose, away from, to Napoleon, to Napoleon. Right over there at the border, over around Czechoslovakia, you'll find a city at the border called Napoleon. And that's what it's talking about, is they were oxlowing, they were getting rid of the weak and send them over here. And that's what they're doing in America now. They're sending all the trash to try to defeat America. And the Sultan, you see, the Sultan is the Celt. And if you look up and study ancient Polish and Czech, you see they used to have a ruling class that were Celtic. The Celton, to see, make his use, the king, to see his use. Hide, E-I-D-E, as in H-I-D-E, to hide, poll on, the numbers, the poll, take a poll, how many, the poll on of the oxalon, the weak, what was taken out. And to this flag of the cross, and the cross fish is it. They're carrying this flag of the cross fish is it, of the pie, the circle, and the cross fish. This is the pie and the cross fish. This flag, the cross fish is it, the circle, as if the circle. What to is whether a poos, to lay blame. And you can read all about that here in Wiki under the Slacheta. And it's pretty long. They have a lot of their history. But it talks about everything that we're reading right here. And to us, aroused to use what on. Osai as D. The Osai, O-P-S-I, the pressure. To see pressure as D, to remove. Osai as D, to remove the pressure. Gentlemen's. Proselton, what to, how, math tie, what to allegiance, who your allegiance is to. The rim as eastern sea, the rim, the border to the eastern sea. The top as which are ready. You see here, already, or Eddie, already, which are ready, para, Helton, of the protection. Para is a protection or to cover health on. A pollution to us oxlos. A pollution to us of the oxlos, of the weak, the multitudes of weak. In a pellet on it is, this it as comas, agora Susan, the auto is brumata. In a pellet on it is, you're trying to reverse a case, is appeal. In a pellet to reverse on it is, this it as comas, as sleeps, agora Susan. It's a agora Susan. Agora is Greek word. It's for it's a public space. They're all sleeping in the public spaces. In Susan, to turn. Like sleeps in the agora Susan, to turn. And the auto, we think, when we say auto, we think it means, controls by itself, like an automatic transmission. But the matic is the part that works as we call auto, like we call a gun an auto if it auto loads. But the auto is the motion. The matic is what from a tick, what does it by itself. And so it's the auto is, the motion is brew mata, from within, the brew from within. Oh, did Jesus, they pen auto is. We chair on the choosing a pellet in dote. Auto is a mice faggin. O-D, to see remove, make his use. They pen, motion is, auto is. We cheer on the choosing. The choosing, the chosen. A pellet in, to reverse, to do it. The motion is a mise fagian. Yourself to me is fagian. Fag is a cigarette, something you suck, a smoke. The fagian, the phagian. So I guess all these hoodlums are out in the public spaces smoking weed and sleeping. And then how delegate, like delegate is comes from de-leg, as in remove the leg, as in you're not doing the footwork, you're delegating your authority, is you're removing the footwork. How remove the leg who's in delegation. What to weak, W-E-A-K, what to weak, the exoman, the exterior of man, the weak skins. How the delegation, what to weak skin man. Oh, they from Pente-Artus. Pente-Artus is the stars, the Pente, the 5. Artus is the 5 stars of the head of one of the fish in Pisces. There's the five, and you're seeing in all the flags and the five loaves. They're like a loaf of bread and have 5 stars in it, and it's the Pentiartus. It'd be symboled like this. It look like a loaf of bread and these 5 stars. And so this would be the Alpha star of Pisces, and I think this is the Bravo star here, called the Mouth. And there's 5 stars here that give a shape of a house. But back in the time that this was written, the center of those 5 stars sat right here on the 0 line. It is known as the Ichio, and as the 2 fish. The age of communism. Age of the 2 fish. And so this is it, these 5 stars, the Penta. And so that's why, it's the Bethlehem, the house of bread. And it's in the belly of the fish. And so at this time, due to procession, it's moved on, but it was right here at the 0 and the 5. And so that's a good place, to when you're on the ship, it's a good thing to spot, because you don't have the extra math, because it's coming right off the 0 line. And so it cuts some math out. So you can shoot that and you'll know where you're at. You're 5 degrees north of the equator. And it's the Pentiartus, the 5 bread loaves. And the duo fishes, connected 2 fishes. The Pentiartus, connected 2 fishes. So somewhere down here lower in this, it tells how they cure it. And how they cure it is they just change it up. They change the writings and say it was me instead of him. And if you can't understand how they do this, here's a clue right here. You go ahead and give me a sentence with 15 words and give me the option to change 8 of them around any which way I want. And that's what these numbers here are. They're telling you to read this: and the disciples, seeing him walking upon the sea, were disturbed. And so I can take and flip any 8 words around in your sentence and make you say anything I want you, instead of and seeing him, the disciples, upon the sea walking. They flipped it around just like this when they can't change the words anymore. When they can't change the meanings. A lot of times they try to keep the same meanings on words. And when they can't change it, they'll just change the position how you read them. So when you read it in the Latin, they'll change these positions, and then from there to your King James, you never even see it coming. You don't realize what they did, and they do this all throughout. You see all throughout that they'll change the position of the words, change the reading order, in order for it to match up what the King James Version says. But I think I was reading up here where it talks about him going off to pray by himself. And I think this is where it tells how that they change places. So they let him do his thing, and then they change places. Alright, this is the longest movie I made in a long time. I'm going to cut this off here. And Jesus was a Nazi. Good day.